Everything is about to change.
And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. So instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
There's something in the air that's going round. It's building like a fire out of control. And there's poison in the sea and in the ground. And it won't be long before the final toll. And the sun is growing dimmer every day. There's a haze upon the earth and in my soul. It's so easy to be fooled and lose your way. And you're never going to find a darker hole. And it covers up the truth and makes me angry. And I got to stand and fight because there's nowhere else to go. And it grabs me by the heart and says there's nothing you can do. Go back to sleep. There's a darkness when they got your soul to keep. The air is getting hard for me to breathe, and my lungs and heart and mind can feel the heat. There are things that seem too hard to be believed, as the clouds spell out the words of our defeat. And I only want a life that makes me happy, to live in peace and harmony and reap what I have sown. To see my children smile at me and know that they are safe when they're asleep. But there's a darkness when they got your soul to keep. And the obvious gets clearer every day as we wake into the form of their deceit. And the darkness in the air will fade away, and one day we'll be marching in the street. And I only want a life that makes me happy, to live in peace and harmony and reap what I have sown. To see my children smile at me and know that they are safe when they're asleep. But there's a darkness when they got your soul to keep. There's a darkness when they've got your soul to keep. There's a darkness when they've got your soul to keep. There's a darkness when they've got your soul to keep.
There is something in the air that's going round, and I think we ought to know about it so we can stop it, because this thing really stinks. That song was called There's a Darkness. It's the one of the songs in my Conspiracy Project, which is a documentary and song, kind of a unique documentary. And the intro on that was an interview in 2007 with Aaron Russo. And he was talking about how Rockefeller gave him the lowdown on what they plan to do with digital currency. You know, one of the plans of the New World Order, the globalists, the World Economic Forum, these people who are doing the Great Reset, one of their plans is to do away with borders. The other plan is to have digital currency so they can control everything about your life. The whole idea they have about no borders is that it's borders and nationalism that's the root cause of every war, because you take pride in your country and your traditions and your customs, and that's what causes war. That's what causes people to hate each other. So if we do away with borders and have one big happy family with one big currency, no borders, then everybody will be happy. There'll be no war and everything will be controlled for you and you won't have to even think. And if you are one of the unfortunate people who were brought up under the influence of the public education system, you already don't know how to think. That's the product of the schools. Teach them how to hate others, how to divide people because of the color of their skin, how to hate your country, how to hate capitalism. But I digress. What happens if there are no borders? Well, it's simple. You better keep your thoughts to yourself, because if they decide they don't like the political party you voted for, or you happen to not like a particular thing that the government is pushing at this particular point, well, you might end up on the terrorist list, just like what they did with the moms and pops who showed up at the school board meetings, who found out, thanks to the pandemic, that their kids were being taught pornography, even as young as kindergarten. So now all these parents who are really concerned about what their kids are being taught find themselves as terrorists. So what happens when there are no borders and all your money is controlled by the government in digital form? Well, where are you going to run? If there are no borders, you can't go anywhere. How can you run for the border when there's a new world order? It's a quote from one of my songs. And thanks to the Freedom Convoy in Canada, it's now being exposed to the average person what kind of control the government can have over your finances and your entire life. That tyrant Justin Trudeau, who decided that these peaceful truckers, who are not guilty of anything other than maybe a parking ticket, and they were peacefully protesting, which is very legal to do in Canada, he decided they were white supremacists and Nazis and terrorists. So for that reason alone, he could freeze their bank accounts. And anybody who happened to give $10 or $50 to a GoFundMe project found out that they were possible terrorists. And so all that money, that GoFundMe money that was raised for legal purposes for the convoy, they froze it. GoFundMe just listened to what the government had to say, and with no judge and jury and not being convicted of anything, GoFundMe decided that they wouldn't give the money to the truckers and they would just donate it to someone else. That's been overturned, but you can see where this leads. Anybody who was in support of these terrorists now found themselves afraid to help or contribute any money. Here's Glenn Greenwald talking about what the government did to WikiLeaks about a decade ago.
No longer could you donate to WikiLeaks using Visa or MasterCard and PayPal, and no longer could you find WikiLeaks on the internet using Amazon because those companies capitulated to the U.S. government demands to cut them off as punishment for their crime of reporting on what the U.S. government was doing. The article goes on, quote, on Friday, PayPal blocked payments to the site, and the finance arm of the Swiss post office, Post Finance, announced Monday that it was freezing Assange's accounts. And the eager compliance of large financial corporations such as Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America, etc., has by design made it extremely difficult for anyone to donate to WikiLeaks, while many people are simply afraid to directly support the group. Now, that last part, I think, is very important. When the U.S. government did this, it wasn't just that they used brute force to cut off WikiLeaks. When the U.S. government comes and says, we think this group is illegal without having to prove it, or when they say anyone marching in defense of election integrity or who views the 2020 election as the byproduct of fraud is an insurrectionist without having to prove it, or when the Trudeau government says anyone who is marching in support of the truckers' protest is a terrorist or an insurrectionist, that not only justifies in their minds forcing these companies to cut off funds and to banish them from the financial system, it makes everybody else afraid to donate to that group, to support a group that the government has said is a terrorist group, is a threat to national security, is engaged in criminal behavior, because they're essentially telling you, even though we haven't proved it in court, if you support this group, you may be guilty, in our eyes, of aiding and abetting or supporting criminality. It creates a climate of fear in which dissent by design is impossible.
We see another example of this with the current war going on in Ukraine. We see the current banking system of the world cutting off funds and any transactions to Russia. Well, you might say that's okay. Russia, bad. Putin, bad. They don't deserve to have any access to financial markets and their own money. Yeah, maybe so. However, this should alert you to how much power the international bankers have. If they can do it to Putin, they can sure as hell do it to you and me. Here's a guest that was on the Joe Rogan show talking about digital currency.
So here, I'll pull it up for you here, yeah? So there's the video.
Yeah.
I don't know if your camera can see that, but
No.
there's the video. There's him speaking about it.
The G7 is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside...
Right, so that's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming, yeah? And here's a quote from the article. This is in the Telegraph, the one he pulled up, but it was behind a paywall, so I'll just read the quote. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible.
Holy shit.
Now, I'm going to take it one step further for you, Joe, right? So the vaccine passport infrastructure is in place. But now we know that the vaccine doesn't stop infection or transmission, but the checkpoint Charlie exists everywhere. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed, and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them. There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system. That's what it's called. And anyone who watches Black Mirror will know what I'm talking about. That's that TV show, right?
Yeah.
So what they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, second most powerful person other than the Prime Minister and maybe the Foreign Secretary in the UK, right? He's telling us, I just played it there for you, he's telling us that's what he, as the UK, the head of the G7, want to bring in for the G7. So a scenario where, like in New York at the moment, because the passport infrastructure is in place, you bring in that digital currency and you've got this total control. And if I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking now, and my employer or government, you heard that in the quote directly, yeah, deems me as saying or doing something inappropriate, suddenly I can't actually pay to come here and speak to you anymore. My digital currency won't even pay for the ticket because it will be known that I'm coming to speak to you.
Let's take a quick break. This show is brought to you by my favorite sponsor, me, and my new album, Unhinged. It's getting great reviews. Christian Toto of the entertainment site Hollywood in Toto said, Unhinged is the protest album we need more than ever. You can find it on my website, therealnealfox.com. That's Neal with an A, not with an I. You can also find it on Spotify and pretty much every digital outlet out there. All 10 songs have music videos, and I think you're going to like it. Go to youtube.com/Neal Fox or rumble.com/Neal Fox to see the music videos. And please like it, share it, and I'll be your best friend. Now back to the show. So, what's the new N-word? There's a new word in town, and we're not supposed to say it, but some people are. The word is nuclear. That's nuclear, not nuclear. For the first time in decades, both sides are starting to talk nuclear. And that's pretty scary. Russia has put themselves on high nuclear alert. Our own country, the U.S., has put the Doomsday airplane in flight. That's the one where they put the president and anybody they deem important enough to stick around after the whole world is destroyed. They want them to survive. I don't know if Biden's the right guy to lead the world back into civilization. This is the guy who can't figure out whether to put his shoes on before his pants or his pants before his shoes. So good luck with that. Personally, I think any politician or military person who talks about starting a nuclear war as a possibility should be removed from office immediately. They are certifiably insane. You know, it's kind of hard to tell the truth of what's going on with this war in Ukraine and Russia, but something just doesn't feel right. I mean, when you've got people like George Soros, Hillary Clinton, Pelosi, Biden, George W. Bush, Adam Schiff, the EU, and all the corporate news media agreeing with each other, something's up. Don't know what it is yet, but something just feels a little fishy. And then you couple that with the fact that the news media is printing blatant lies, you know, things like showing pictures of the wrong war, claiming it's Ukraine's war, showing pictures of victims who were the same people that were victims in previous wars. Something's up. We've also got the World Economic Forum, you know, the guys behind the Great Reset, talking about how bad Russia is. We've already got big tech censoring stories that they don't agree with. Yep, something smells fishy. I'm going to end off this particular episode with a song from the Unhinged album called Truth Matters. This was originally written at the time of the mostly peaceful protests, you know, back in the time of 2020, 2021, ancient history. But it still holds true. I think it always will. Truth matters. Here it is.
I took a walk through the promised land. I saw the signs, tried to understand the broken glass beneath my feet, the broken hearts lying in the street. One sign said peace with an upraised fist. I searched my mind for what I missed. I passed by houses, charred remains. Another sign said break your chains.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Uncle Neal's Neighborhood. If you like what I'm doing and you want me to keep doing it, feel free to become a patron at patreon.com/Neal Fox. And you could also stream, download, buy, music and merch at my website, therealnealfox.com. It's a fun place for the whole family. And check out my videos, my music videos and other videos. I make them with my own little hands. Takes me a month or two to make these, so I want somebody to see it, for Pete's sake. But the best thing you could do is share this podcast, share my videos, share my website, share. Just find some people you like and share things with them. Or find some people you can't stand and share that with them as well. You know, if the world's got you down, just go out there and look for somebody who needs a little help. Helping them is the best way to help yourself. Love you guys. Speak to you real soon. Bye-bye.